Precisely 6:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Lal Mallavarachi and read by Sharifa Tahir. Headlines. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa addresses the 76th UN General Assembly. The President says more initiatives including development financing and debt relief should be adopted through international mechanisms to support developing nations. President Rajapaksa stressed that terrorism will never raise its head again in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka and Latvia are to develop bilateral relations. International Day of Sign Language falls today. The concession package granted to the tourism sector will be extended by a further 9 months. In foreign news, France and US seek to mend rift over AUKUS pact. Sports, Sri Lanka cricket squad move into quarantine before commencing practices tomorrow. We move on to local news in detail now. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa says that an international mechanism is needed for developing countries to overcome the current economic instability. Addressing the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly held at the UN headquarters in New York yesterday, President Rajapaksa stated that Sri Lanka benefited greatly from financial and material support provided by bilateral and multilateral donors to manage the pandemic. He also thanked those nations and institutions for their generosity. He added that the increased global cooperation visible during this ongoing crisis is greatly encouraging. President Rajapaksa stressed that the economic impact of the pandemic has been especially severe on developing countries. This has placed the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals at considerable risk, he said. It is vital that more initiatives, including development financing and debt relief, be adopted through international mechanisms to support developing nations. President Rajapaksa stressed that terrorism will never raise its head again in Sri Lanka. He further said that international cooperation in the exchange of intelligence is necessary to win against global terrorism. President Rajapaksa pointed out that decisive and urgent multilateral action is required to address the grave threats posed by climate change and the loss of biodiversity. Sri Lankan government has completely banned the use of chemical fertilizers, pesticides and weedicides considering its impact on soil fertility, biodiversity, waterways and health, the president said. Production and adoption of organic fertilizer as well as investments into organic agriculture are now incentivized in Sri Lanka, President Rajapaksa stated. A meeting between President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and the President of the Republic of Latvia, Levitis, took place on last Tuesday on the sidelines of the 76th session of the UN General Assembly. The two leaders were of the view that strong steps should be taken to further the diplomatic relations between the two countries. The two leaders discussed the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the economy and society and exchanged views on the measures to be taken for the betterment of the tourism industry in the two countries as the pandemic subsides. The two leaders also focused on enhancing cooperation between the two countries in the fields of education and digital technology. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation giving you the news. Continuing with more stories here at home. International Day of Sign Language falls today. The United Nations General Assembly has declared September 23rd as International Day of Sign Languages. The resolution was initially adopted by consensus during the 48th meeting of the Third Committee of the United Nations General Assembly on 16th of November 2017 and officially adopted at the 72nd United Nations General Assembly. Communication is a celebration of life. We should be prudent and mature when we speak so that our words enrich and uplift others. The history and evolution of language is amazing. There are thousands of people across the world who use sign language. Being hearing impaired along with few other related conditions make these beautiful humans engage in sign language. Sign languages are visual languages that use hand, facial and body movements as means of communication. Sign language is commonly used as the main form of communication for people who are hearing impaired. Sign language are not just about the use of hands. They are also about the movement of a person's arms, body, and facial expressions. Facial expressions in sign languages can express both emotion and grammatical information. Some children with autism spectrum disorder struggle to develop verbal communication. Learning a sign language can be a helpful communication tool for these special children with ASD. The Epidemiology Unit of the Health Ministry reports that another 1,342 persons have tested positive for COVID-19 in Sri Lanka yesterday. This brings the total number of confirmed cases of coronavirus reported in the country to 508,672. As many as 435,022 recoveries and 12,376 deaths have been confirmed in Sri Lanka since the outbreak of the pandemic. 61,274 active cases are currently under medical care. That's on local news.
A mother knows the pain of each member of the family. SLBC, the trusted relief for aches and pains.
An effective therapy for relief from cold, sneezing, flu, headaches, swelling due to toothaches, rheumatic, discomforts, and muscular aches and pains. SLBC, the Vidya Mahatmya in every home.
The main news story is brought to you by SLBC Vidya Mahatmya.
Tourism Minister Prasanna Ranatunga said the loan and leasing concession package granted by the government to those engaged in tourism sector affected by the COVID-19 pandemic will be extended by a further 9 months. The existing relief was to expire on the 30th of September. The latest extension is by 9 months as opposed to the previous move of 6 months. On the instructions of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa took steps to extend this relief package aimed at strengthening the industry to meet the challenges faced by business and individuals engaged in the tourism sector.
The main news story was brought to you by SLBC Vidya Mahatmya. Brush your teeth twice a day for healthy teeth and gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, your trusted brands in oral care for many years.
Supiriviki Ayurvedic toothpaste for adults. Kakulu Ayurvedic toothpaste for kids. 9 Ayurvedic ingredients of Supiriviki will protect your teeth and strengthen your gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, products from SLBC.
And now in Watch Light.
Vaccination of differently able children above 12 years and with special needs is taking place island-wide at main hospitals. State Minister Chanajaya Sumana said that children between the age of 12 and 19 years with various illnesses will be given the COVID vaccine at Lady Ridgeway Hospital tomorrow. Pfizer vaccine is scheduled to be given on Saturday at Anuradhapura Teaching Hospital for children with thalassemia and other illnesses. This is for the attention of parents and guardians of the children.
World News.
World News headlines: France and US seek to mend rift over AUKUS pact. Angry scenes at Haiti airport as deported migrants arrive. Lithuania urges people to throw away Chinese phones. World News in detail. France and US have made efforts to end a row which started last week with the announcement of the AUKUS Defence Pact between the US, the UK and Australia. The pact cost France a deal worth $37 billion to build submarines for Australia. Paris said it found out only hours before the public announcement. The American and French presidents have now issued a joint statement saying the situation would have benefited from open consultations between allies. Angry scenes broke out at Haiti's main airport after migrants were deported to the country from the U.S. Last Tuesday, migrants at the airport in Port-au-Prince rushed back towards the plane they had arrived on, while others threw shoes at the jet. Last weekend, the U.S. started flying out migrants from a Texas border town, which has seen an influx in recent weeks. About 13,000 would-be immigrants have gathered under a bridge connecting Del Rio in Texas to Ciudad Acuna in Mexico. Finally, on world news, consumers should throw away their Chinese phones and avoid buying new ones, Lithuania's defense ministry has warned. A report by its National Cybersecurity Center tested 5G mobiles from Chinese manufacturers. It claimed that Xiaomi phone had built-in censorship tools, while another Huawei model had security flaws. Huawei said no user data is sent externally, and Xiaomi said it does not censor communications. That's on world news. And moving on to development news now. The government of Sri Lanka and the World Bank signed a $92 million financing agreement for the Climate Resilience Multi-Phase Program Phase 1 project. This project is expected to benefit around 11.2 million people across the country by modernizing the weather, flood and landslide forecasting and early warning systems. The project will support the government departments to better forecast weather-related hazards, improve early warning systems, and invest in flood-resilient infrastructure. It will also lay the foundation for reducing flood risks in Kalani River Basin in the long run. That's on development news.
Sports news.
And on sports news, head coach Mickey Arthur said that the Sri Lankan players have shown a lot of commitment in the past and are determined to perform well in the ICC T20 World Cup in the United Arab Emirates. Mickey Arthur said he is proud of the attitude and the commitment of the Sri Lankan players as they prepare for the biggest T20 showpiece in the world. The Sri Lankan players and the staff have now spent 228 days during the last 10 months in a bubble. Meanwhile, the Sri Lankan squad and the support staff moved into a leading hotel in Colombo to commence their period of quarantine before commencing practices from tomorrow.
A safe, easy and versatile app for all your banking needs. NSB Pay for monetary transactions, bill payments, reloads, credit card payments and Lanka QR transactions. A range of facilities with multiple account registrations. Access to your bank needs wherever you are. Download the NSB Pay app from the Play Store or the App Store for free now. For more information, call your nearest NSB branch or 0112 379 379. Conditions apply.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Aeroloft Russian Airlines will be resuming its flight operations to Colombo from Moscow from November 4th, 2021, Airport and Aviation Services Sri Lanka Private Limited said. The airline will operate 2 flights per week and will operate Airbus A330-300 aircraft. Aeroloft Russian Airlines is one of the oldest international airlines that operated international flights to Colombo, and it has been operating the Moscow-Colombo route since 1964. That's on Business News.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
A safe, easy and versatile app for all your banking needs. NSB Pay for monetary transactions, bill payments, reloads, credit card payments and Lanka QR transactions. A range of facilities with multiple account registrations. Access to your bank needs wherever you are.
And on economic news, Consumer Affairs Authority Amendment Bill and regulations under Fauna and Flora Ordinance were passed in Parliament yesterday. Taking part in the debate, State Minister Asantha Alagiyawana said that amendments were introduced to take action against traders who make unreasonable profits by selling goods at high prices. The fines have been increased by tenfold. Steps have been taken to maintain fair prices through competition without controlling the rates. He said that solutions will be given for the shortage of goods such as milk powder and cement.
Weather report.
Showers or thunder showers will occur at several places in the central, over, eastern and north-central provinces and in Mullaitivu district during evening or night. Fairly heavy showers above 75 millimeters can be expected at some places. Several spells of showers will occur in the Sabaragamu, western and northwestern provinces and in Gola and Mathura districts. That's the weather update. Heading back to the headlines. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa addresses the 76th UN General Assembly. The President says more initiatives, including development financing and debt relief, should be adopted through international mechanisms to support developing nations. President Rajapaksa stressed that terrorism will never raise its head again in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka and Latvia are to develop bilateral relations. International Day of Sign Language falls today. The concession package granted to the tourism sector will be extended by a further 9 months. In foreign news, France and US seek to mend rift over AUKUS pact. Sports news, Sri Lanka cricket squad move into quarantine before commencing practices from tomorrow. With that, we conclude the morning bulletin of news.